Hey everyone, welcome to my first AMA. I recently just hit 2,000 followers and I'm actually at about 2,200. So we definitely went over the goal for this AMA. And first off, I just wanted to thank everyone, just how friendly and kind and enthusiastic you've been, whether it be about the Yandere smut that I post, the scripts that I write, or the whimpering and male moans that I perform. Whatever reason you're here for, I appreciate you a lot, and it means a lot to me that I got so many questions and people interested in, who I am and what I have to say. And, I'm still pretty private, but I'm willing to share as much as I can. And so I'm going to be reading most of these comments. There's quite a few, so bear with me. And yeah, I hope you find it interesting and, maybe feel a little bit closer to me. I'm going to go back and forth between the two posts that I made. If you weren't aware, I made one on my profile and then I made one on our Yandere. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question I got was, where did your love for yanderes originate? And I feel like I always really liked yanderes since I was like a little boy. I remember watching like Hey Arnold and like Ed, Edd n Eddy with the Kanker sisters. And a lot of Western animation and shows and stuff I feel like had these like really dominant women or girl characters who were like picking on the boys or forcing the boys to be in relationships with them. And I didn't really know why I liked it because I was pretty small, but that just really did it for me. And I just found that form of love to be really satisfying. And so I just kind of grew up into an adult and, started watching different types of media and started watching anime and stuff. And I just found that I really loved that genre, and believe it or not, it's one that I've only really been dedicated to or put hyper focus on in the last year or two. I just found our Yandere and found the obsessive love sheet, and I just dove headfirst in, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I really can't get enough of it, and I'm waiting for myself to get tired of it and just be like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, I don't find this interesting anymore. But, after reading like 300 dojins and like 50 mangas and like, a few animes and different things, I still just want more. And that's part of why I started writing stuff and performing stuff. So next question is, when is the Elder Scrolls 6 coming out? Which is really fucking funny because there's this user who kept seeing the pictures that I posted of Billy Ray Cyrus and kept mistaking them for Todd Howard. And so this person keeps going with this bit, and I think it's super fucking funny. But I really hope that Elder Scrolls 6 comes out in the next couple years at least, because I really love that game. I love Skyrim. I loved Oblivion. So I'm fucking waiting for it too. The next question is, if you could travel, which place would you like to go to? And do you have any kinks? I really want to visit Japan, and I would really like to visit Germany at some point. I have only traveled a little bit, but I do really enjoy it. I'm sort of more of a person who likes to live in the culture and like experience it rather than, go to a million different touristy places. I do like touristy places, don't get me wrong, but I just kind of like to people watch and eat food and things like that. So I would say Japan is number one because I'm a huge fucking weeb. And any kinks that I have, if you've read any of my writing or any of my scripts, or my performances rather, I have a lot. I like a lot of things, and most of the things that I write about I like. So, God, I don't know. I really like butts. That's like anal stuff is like amazing. I've always been like super into it and obsessed with it. So butt stuff is probably my number one. Yeah, I don't know. I just always really liked it. So that's one of my kinks. The next question is, are you Billy Ray Cyrus's twin sibling? And I answered this on the thread, but I would really like it if you respected my family's privacy. I am not my brother, Billy Ray. He has his own life to live and his career, and we took separate paths. He decided to be a country music singer, and I decided to be a weirdo on the internet who really likes yanderes and moans into a microphone. So, I'd really like it if you respected our path and not inquire about my brother, Billy Ray, at this time. Thank you. The next question is, what's the raunchiest encounter you've had with no revealing details? So I once dated, I met this woman, I think it was on OkCupid. This was probably like 10 years ago. I mean, I'm 31 for context, in case you didn't know. But she was a professional submissive / dominatrix at a dungeon. And of course, I was very much into that idea. And so she was like, hey, my work is having a party where it's just like people come and they play and they do kink stuff. And would you want to be my date? And I was like, oh, absolutely. Of course, I'd love to go. So I went and it was cool. Like I watched a lot of people do lots of cool things. Everyone was really nice to me. I enjoyed my time with my date. And so she went to go play or do something. And I went into one of these rooms that had this like really beautiful redheaded dominatrix. And there was like a line of men who were, looking to be played with. She was just doing free sessions for this party. And there was this kind of like, kind of average looking guy just standing in the background against a wall. And so I was like, oh, I'm not going to wait in that line. I'm just going to chill. And so I stood next to him and he was like, hey man, how's it going? And so we got to chatting for a bit and we were talking about gaming and some of our favorite things like movies and stuff. And he then looks at me and he asks, he's like, what do you think of, Mistress Redhead or whatever her name is? And I was like, oh, she's gorgeous. She's very talented. And he's like, oh, that's actually my fiance. And I said, oh, wow, like, congratulations. And he was like, do you want to be played with by her? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I mean, like that, yeah, that would be cool. Like, but like, I'm good. Like, I'm good in the back here. And he's like, oh, no, don't worry. And so he walked up to her and like whispered in her ear. He whispered in her ear and pointed at me, and she like waved at me. And so he's like, yeah, go ahead. Like, you can cut in line. She said that she would love to. And so, yeah, I got like publicly played with. And that was just really fucking cool because, I passed a high enough charisma check with this guy for him to, let me get beaten up basically by his fiance. I don't know if that's like the raunchiest, but it's definitely an interesting one. Next question is, how are you? I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much. All of this positive feedback and stuff from my audios and my scripts has been really amazing and giving me a lot of dopamine. So I have been really good. I'm recording this partially on Friday, and Fridays are usually the days that I get pizza. So I'm really excited for that. So thank you for asking. The next question is, what is something in life that you feel some people may overlook, but makes you really happy? And what is your script writing process like? For the first question, I feel like a lot of people don't realize and often overlook how underappreciated everyone in their life is. I mean, just in the world. I think everyone just really wishes that people appreciated them more. And this is something that I've felt for a really long time. And, I sort of adopted this philosophy that, everyone needs to hear that they're appreciated and that they're cared for and that someone is thinking about them. And so that's why in my personal life and even in my online life, I try to say a lot of kind things and comment on people's scripts and comment on people's performances. Because, I mean, not to get like too political or anything, but like, in this sort of like capitalist society, there's so many things constantly telling you that you're not good enough. And that just, I think, really adds up. And so, my sort of mission in life, I think, is to just show people more appreciation and that they're worthy of love and that they should be allowed to feel good. And so that's something that I think that a lot of people don't realize, and they don't truly realize how underappreciated they feel until somebody really sits them down and then tells them just how much they're appreciated. And I appreciate you for asking that. In terms of my script writing process, I will often write on my phone or sit at my computer, and I just sort of get an idea, and if I can't write it at that moment, I make sure to write it down. Otherwise, I just write. I mean, I don't really try to think too hard about what I'm writing. I just sort of try to imagine what's going on and just write as if I'm standing in the room. And that's just pretty much it. I mean, I read a lot of the content that I write, so that's where I pull a lot of ideas from. And, I'm a big firm believer in writing what you know, and I would say blessed with a lot of experiences and stuff in life. And even the stuff that I haven't experienced, I've read a lot about. So I try to just pull from that information when I'm writing. And another thing that I do that might be kind of weird, sometimes I feel like a script or a story or something has like a song that goes really well with it. And so when I'm writing, sometimes I'll listen to that song on repeat because it just fits the theme so well. And then I don't have to really like worry about changing the music and trying to find a mood that fits. I just listen to that song over and over. So a lot of my scripts actually have, like, when I see them or see people perform them, I can think of that song because I listen to it so much. So thank you for that question. The next question is, what are your favorite traits in a yandere? And seriously, how can you come up with all those great scripts? I feel like I get this question a lot. I just fucking love yanderes, man. Like I love when yanderes like blackmail the shit out of you. Because I feel like there is a real sense of power in threatening someone without resorting to any physical violence. I mean, I think the physical violence is super fucking fun and super hot, but just like having a yandere just stand there, like not even making a move, and just with her words, she just completely obliterates you and turns you into like this helpless mess because she could just destroy you at like the push of a button. Like, that shit drives me wild. Like, to feel so helpless with just a few words is like amazing. In terms of how I come up with the scripts, I consume a lot of yandere content. I read a lot of smut. I talk to a lot of people who do the same things. I talk to a lot of different women and things like that, and performers. And I just sort of have these conversations with them and consume a lot of this media. And, I mean, it sounds silly, but I just get ideas randomly throughout the day. I mean, like, I'll have a person deliver an Amazon package and I'll be like, oh, I want, what if an Amazon delivery driver started stalking you and, knows where you live and knows all your packages and is looking in them. And I just sort of get those just ideas just kind of randomly, and I write them down and I kind of explore them later. So, I have a very vivid imagination, and it gets me into trouble sometimes, but other times that it allows me to write a lot of cool things. So I really appreciate that compliment, and I'm glad you like my script so much. Another one, what is the secret to writing so many great scripts? Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. It's just keep practicing. And I feel like that sounds like such a cop-out to a lot of people, but it's really not. I mean, I just keep writing. And sometimes my scripts don't do super well, sometimes they do. And I just don't think about it. I just post it, I hear what people say, I see the stuff that they like, and I think about that later when I'm writing new scripts. But, once I post it and it's been filled or whatever, I don't really think about it again. Because there's just more to write. So I would just say the secret is to just keep writing and keep practicing and just keep doing it. I mean, honestly, I had no idea what I was doing when I started writing, and I just did it. Like, do it scared. Just go for it. And don't think that you're not allowed to write something because somebody else writes it. Like, I'm sure there's somebody who's even a better yandere writer than I am out there, and they're just, you know, maybe they're too nervous to do it. But you should write. You should publish your stuff. You should post it for people to appreciate, because maybe only 10 people like it, maybe 100 people like it, but there are at least there's at least always going to be somebody who's going to be interested in what you're writing. And I think that everyone should really like hammer that point down in their heads, because there's just so many readers out there, just like there's so many writers, and people have such niche desires and stuff. So just fucking write, like really, like just go for it. Next question is, where is Gasai University and how do I attend? For those who are not aware of the bit, I created a fake university as a joke called Gasai University. Yuno Gasai is the most famous yandere, I would say, of all time. So that's her last name. And yeah, I feel like Gasai University is sort of similar to the concept of Flavor Town. It doesn't have a physical location. It is simply a state of mind. And, you know, those who are dedicated to learning the ways of the yandere are welcome to join the metaphorical and metaphysical classrooms of Gasai University. And as the dean, the mayor of Flavor Town, so to speak, of Gasai University, all are welcome. So if you want to be a student, you are. If you don't want to be a student, you don't have to be. You simply are by wanting to learn. The next question is, what's your favorite anime manga of all time? And how did you get into making content? So audio, scripts, etc. My favorite anime of all time, I would say, is probably... it's really hard. I think Fooly Cooly. I've watched it so many times, and it was very transformative for me as a young man. And I think it just is perfect. It's short, it's interesting, it is funny, and I love it. I've seen it a million times. I think my most recent favorites are Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen. Those are just fucking bangers, and I love those so much. Manga, I would say that's a hard one. Flowers of Evil is really fucking good, and I unfortunately related a lot to the main character, who is in sort of an abusive relationship with this other woman, this classmate of his, and it affects him very much so. And I just really connected with that one a lot. So favorite manga would be Flowers of Evil. For how I got into content, so this is always kind of funny to talk to people about, because I feel like I'm almost weirder for this, but I started listening to the ASMR stuff and the Gone Wild audio stuff as sleep aids, because I was having these like kind of anxious feelings of needing to do something when I was going to bed. And I thought about doing audiobooks, but I was like, well, I'm not going to know where I stopped, and like I'm going to be confused about the story, and it made me really anxious. But then I discovered these like Yandere audios, and I was like, these are fucking great. And so, you know, you go to sleep once a day, and so I would listen to a new Yandere audio like every day. And I'd listen to most of it before I fell asleep. And if I didn't make it all the way, I would finish it the next day just while I was working. But and this is really embarrassing, but I eventually ran out. And I like didn't have really much else. I mean, there was some stuff on YouTube, but it was a little harder to kind of find it. And the audios that I wanted were, you know, a little bit, they needed to be a little bit longer so I could fall asleep to them, because like I didn't want to have to keep changing them while I was trying to sleep. So like I would look for kind of 15 to 20 minute audios, which is kind of the sweet spot, I think. And yeah, I just ran out. So I looked at some scripts that I had liked and just kind of copied the formatting, because I wasn't sure like what the best way to do it was. And then I just started writing, and you know, I posted one and it was filled very quickly. And this was like 3 months ago. And yeah, I just kind of got hooked. I took a little bit of a break between that first one, but I just kept getting a lot of positive feedback. And, you know, prior to this, I had done some writing. There were a couple books that I had been working on that I haven't finished. And so, yeah, it was just came really naturally for me, and I just kept wanting to do it. You know, some people have warned me that, like, be careful, you're going to burn out, but I truly just fucking love it. And it just is so fun. And, you know, I look forward waking up every day to write something new. And so, you know, I think when it stops being fun, that's when I'll slow down. But for now, I just, you know, it's like playing a video game. It's just so fucking fun. For performing, that's a little different. I feel a little bad saying this, but like, I just don't really like listening to men's audios. They're just not for me. I am interested in men, and I do find men sexually attractive, but I just for some reason the audios just don't do it for me. And so I wanted to write male scripts for women, and I was like, well, I'm not really into listening to these men do it, but maybe I could do it. I mean, I have an okay voice, and in my personal life, I have a podcast, which is, you know, not super popular, but, you know, I've been doing it for a little bit now, and so I have some, I would say, experience speaking and speaking into a mic and things like that. So I was like, well, I'll just do it myself, and I got, you know, a really positive reaction, a response from that, and so I just have kept doing it. And so yeah, so that's kind of what got me into doing audios now. And I'm making a lot more content and putting stuff on YouTube that's safe for work, and just using my voice because you all said you really loved it, and I don't think I would have pursued that if you hadn't. So thank you so much. The next question is, do you go to college? I went to college in my early 20s, and I did some things, and it just wasn't for me. I struggle with dyslexia and dyscalculia, and have ADHD, among other things. And I just didn't really have the resources or money to really give it my all. I had to work and go to school at the same time. And some people are really amazing at doing that, and I'm not. So I just ended up quitting school and just started working. And thankfully, I'm a pretty charming person, and so I was able to get into some management positions and, you know, eventually work at the job that I do now, which allows me to work from home. So, you know, if there's anyone listening to this who is in college, I think college is great. I think that if you are built for it and you know, have something that you really want to do, that's amazing. And if you're working and going to college, you are like a superhero to me. That's so fucking awesome. But also, you know, like, if college isn't for you, just, I would say, make sure that you have at least some kind of plan, or are okay with working certain types of jobs, or having to do extra work to get better jobs. You know, whatever makes you happy is what's important. And sometimes we have to do things that don't make us happy, but I would encourage you to kind of explore and you know, find something that works for you. What advice would you give to people who want to start writing or voice acting? Just do it. Like, just get a microphone, be clumsy, stumble, start writing. Write like the shittiest script you can think of. I mean, you know, record something and sound terrible. But the one thing that I will say is pay attention to everything that you're doing. Figure out each time what you could do better. You know, maybe in your first audio you hear some crackling. Figure out how to fix that. Maybe in your first script, you get the feedback, you know, I felt like your characters were a little dry. Well, figure out how to make those characters less dry. You don't necessarily need to follow the advice and feedback of people who are criticizing you, but usually when someone is providing that feedback, it means that there is something going on there that caused that. And that's kind of something for you to decide and explore whether that's something that you need to improve on, and how you're going to improve on that. So yeah, my advice for that would just do it. I mean, like I said, I haven't been doing this for very long, so I feel silly kind of giving this advice. I mean, I've been talking and writing for a while, but in terms of the Gone Wild audio stuff, like I'm still very new at this. So that's like currently my process, is to just keep trying and just keep trying to improve every time I do something, and stumble while I do it. But I'm not going to let perfection get in the way of good. And I think that's something to really remember. What is your top 10 best yanderes? There's too many. It would take me too long to sit there and make a tier list, but I got this question a lot already, so I'm just going to say it. My favorite yandere is going to be Yuno Gasai. I think she's just peak, and I think that the writing of her and the general story around that character is just fantastic. And I truly don't think anything is going to really top that. I think there are characters who are going to get very close, but I think with just how epic Future Diary is, I truly think she will remain the GOAT for the rest of my life, you know. But we'll see. I look forward to it. The other character who I would say is my favorite would be Yukako Yamagishi, and she is known to yandere historians as the first real yandere in popular media, at least in Japanese media. And I just love her and the entire arc that she has with Kochi, and it's just part 4 of JoJo is just fucking amazing, and it's my favorite. So I would say she's my second place for now. There's like 1,000 yanderes in my head, so it's really hard to compare, but I really like those two. The next question is, what script of the King of Yandere ASMR, Yan Khan, is your favorite? I have no idea who this person is. I had to go on their profile to look them up, and I'm not trying to say that to be rude or anything. I'm just a huge dumbass when it comes to remembering scriptwriter names or voice actresses or actors, unless I like communicate with them regularly. So like the VAs who like reach out to me and like fill my scripts and like talk to me, like I know their names and I know their usernames because I like have interactions with them, but I don't really pay attention too much to like script writers that I'm not in contact with. But I looked at his stuff and it looks really amazing, and it's so cool that he has like 100 yandere prompts. I tend to stick away from stuff like that because I just want to have the ideas come from me. But I think it's so fucking cool that there's another person who is writing yandere stuff as much as me and is well known enough that somebody would ask me about him and refer to him as the king of ASMR. So, like I said, I didn't really know him until this comment, but I think that that's fucking amazing. And I wish this person really well. And hopefully I get to see some of his scripts, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for some of his stuff if people feel it. The next question I have is, how are you so nice? Mommy issues, like fucking significant, debilitating mommy issues. That is my villain origin story. So thank you for that. How does one get a yandere girlfriend? So honestly, I don't think that most people could really handle the emotional weight of dealing with a woman who matches the characteristics of a fictional yandere character. The closest things to real life yanderes are usually people with like untreated bipolar or borderline personality disorder. I've had like this kind of headcanon and sort of, you know, armchair psychology thought process that a lot of yanderes are kind of autism coded because of how like hyperfixated they get and sort of socially awkward they can be at times. I'm autistic, so I speak from you know, my own personal experiences. So there's a little fun fact there. And yeah, I just think that it's not a matter of finding one. I think that with all dating, you should just talk to people and get to know people. And if you find a woman who, you know, you click with, I think that's more important than her being a yandere. And, you know, I think there are signs too that if you really do want this type of person, like if you cultivate a friendship with this woman, you'll notice that she is obsessive or is really eager to talk to you. So I would just say pay attention to the people in your life and pay attention to the women in your life, and just treat them like people and talk to them and get to know them, and don't fetishize their mental illness. I mean, obviously, as someone who consumes a lot of yandere content, I do fetishize that idea of a character, but like when it comes to real life, like these are people. These are people who are suffering oftentimes and, need support. So I would say that, be careful, because it's not going to go the same way as like anime. This is real life. And I feel like a lot of the people asking for yandere boyfriends or girlfriends are like between the ages of like 15 to 25. I think once you have had a little experience dating and actually experienced mental illness from a partner who is suffering and crying themselves to sleep and is struggling with depression and jealousy, you sort of realize that it's not really worth it. And that's sort of why I make jokes like, not necessarily that I could fix her, but that I could support her through her process. Because I don't, want to see a partner suffering that much. And it is nice to have a partner be obsessed with you. I've experienced it a handful of times and still do to an extent with my current partners. But it's not worth seeing that person that you love in that much pain if you can avoid it. So that's my very serious answer. But for a silly answer, how to get a yandere girlfriend, I mean, just be good, like skill issue, For the next question, would you ever consider making voice acting / writing more than a hobby? I've been thinking about it. Like I said, I do a podcast, which I won't name because it would partially dox me. But yeah, I have been enjoying it, and I really like acting with my voice. And so I actually have been thinking about that, and maybe doing some like free voice work for some like animation projects or something, or some of the content creators that I follow. And so yeah, I think that it might be something I explore in the next year or so. Next question is, why aren't you stalking me? Believe it or not, I'm not actually a yandere, even though it's in my middle name. I am very respectful of boundaries. And if someone tells me that they're not interested in me, I just completely like switch off. I just leave them alone. Or I become their friend. I become a friend of theirs. And I just move on to the next person or start pursuing other people. And I think that's the healthiest way to approach life. I think that, as someone who's polyamorous and has dated a lot, I think that there are so many people out in the world for you to love. And if someone is not showing interest in you or not appreciating you, there will be someone who does. And you should put that energy towards finding that person than trying to convince someone else who already doesn't like you to like you. So yeah, I'm not really a stalker. I'm a yandere for yandere content. I'm very obsessive about that. But yeah, I'm not a good yandere. I'm also really lazy. So, if somebody was just not interested in me, I wouldn't go that crazy to trying to convince them. I would just go to somebody who was interested in me. Next question is, what do you like to watch in your free time that's not yandere content? I love horror. Horror is like my favorite thing. Manga and anime just in general is really awesome. And I just watch a lot of movies. I really like movies. I like getting lost in different worlds and stuff. And I like all sorts of genres. I'm not really into sports, so I'm not a sports person. And besides that, I pretty much like every genre. Fantasy and sci-fi are kind of hit and miss for me. But yeah, I watch all sorts of stuff. Reality television, dramas, horrors, comedies, just everything. What types of yanderes do I prefer? The dominant ones, for sure. They don't have to be violent necessarily, but I really like dominant yanderes. I like a woman who will just fucking obliterate me. So That's sort of my type. How many people are in your DMs? Not too many. People are pretty respectful and kind to me. And I try to make my DMs a safe space, but also make it very clear that it is a space that is like a privilege, so to speak. Like, not in like a I'm better than you way, but like, you know, if you're gonna be weird or say like harassing things, like I'm just not gonna let you have that space. So people have been quite nice to me in the DMs. I've gotten some pretty horny ones, and you know, I I try to be as like gentle as possible about that. But you know, for the most part, everyone's really nice. Am I being held captive? Blink twice. If yes, no, I'm very safe. I am very happy where I am physically located, and I would never complain about the living situation that I'm in and how much it allows me to write. And yeah, I'm safe, so you don't need to ask this question anymore. Nope. I'm good. Yep. Nothing to worry about here. The next question is I assume you use a lot of your real life experiences in your writing / voice acting. If yes, does anything ever feel particularly triggering, or is this a way to work through that? Yeah, I mean, I have some my own trauma and stuff that I've dealt with. You know, physically abusive and emotionally abusive partner in my early 20s, late teens. And I think for me, I think my therapist calls this sublimation. It is somewhat part of a way for me to cope. I think there is a sort of desire or draw for me to be attracted to women who are manipulative and abusive. And, you know, thankfully, I'm not in any sort of situation like that now. I've been out of that situation for over 10 years, and I'm very happy with the people that I'm with, and they treat me all very well. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I write in terms of like the gaslighting and the manipulation and stuff is sort of a way for me to engage with sort of my trauma in a way that is safe and, you know, something that's just not gonna hurt me. It's not gonna hurt anyone. It's a much healthier alternative than trying to date someone who will actually treat me like that, which will not go over well. So yeah, so that's an interesting question. Next question is, what is your favorite part about this community that you've created? I really love just how positive everything has become. I try really hard to moderate and enforce that first rule, which is to be nice. I think that a lot of people, like I said, feel underappreciated, and I think a lot of people in these sort of yandere spaces are lonely and feel down about themselves, and as a result really want to be loved. And so I think that if we're going to have a space like that, we need to make sure that people are taking care of each other. And so that's why I'm just like so strict about it. And if I see any type of harassment or like shitty kink shaming or rudeness from people, I just shut it down, because I just, you know, I've had some people say like, you know, you remove things that are like, you know, valid feedback. And you know, there is valid criticism on some of the things that I post, and I leave those up when they're respectful. But if someone's going to sit there and say that somebody's kink or picture that they posted is like fucking disgusting and like, you know, abhorrent and gross, like, I don't care if that's how you feel. Like, if it's not for you, just move on. And if you are going to talk to somebody like that, I'm going to remove it, because it's just not appropriate. Like, you don't need to let everyone know how much you hate something. Like the people who are commenting are there to look at that image, and like, you can just scroll on by. So with that said, I just, you know, I love that sort of mentality has been shifting in the community, and instead of just kind of being sad and wallowing in sort of our own misery, we've started to tell each other, hey, you're gonna make it. You know, I've just seen a lot more positivity and stuff since I've sort of started moderating the community and trying to kind of spread those messages of appreciation that I mentioned earlier. And I think that's my favorite part, is just seeing people grow and be kind to each other and just rooting for each other. Because I think we all are going to make it if we're all here for each other and we try. And yeah, it's sort of a long-winded answer, but I think that's my favorite part of the community, is just seeing the growth and seeing the kindness that people are now starting to give each other and the grace they're starting to offer each other. Next question is, what do you find most attractive in other people, physically or otherwise? I really value someone who is direct and isn't afraid to communicate. I really love communication. I love over communicators. Physically, I mean, I like all types of body types. I like fat women. I like skinny women. I like average size women, straight size women, whatever. I just really like women. In terms of men, I kind of like more like femboys. But again, like, I really just love people. You know, I've been interested in men who are like more berry or more ottery, winks, whatever, like, you know, whatever you want to call them, those body types. I've found all sorts of people attractive. And I think another thing I value in terms of like emotionally or whatever with people is people who are very like self-aware of themselves and are committed to growth and improvement. Even if they're a complete hot mess, it makes me really happy to see them trying to better themselves by going to therapy or working on themselves and acknowledging their faults. I think that's probably the sexiest thing in the world to me. So yeah, I would say that's kind of my type. The next question is, why is humans so aware of their own death when we can't outcome the unstoppable walk of time and death? I have no idea how to answer that. Death is really scary, and I think people just fear the unknown in general. So I think it's best to not think about it, because it's really none of our business what happens after we live. We'll find out when we get there. So no spoilers. Will you marry me? Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Shoot your shot. How did you get into this mess in the first place, and why are all these girls so obsessed with you? Like, what happened? I don't know. I am just nice to women and make slutty sounds with my voice, and apparently that really does it. I just treat people like human beings and am kind to them and patient with them, and that seems to really do it for them. So that's my secret. I guess maybe I'm a little charming about it when I do it, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. Last question on the post on my profile is, why are you so hot? I don't sweat a lot. I have like issues with like body regulation, so I think that's why I overheat sometimes. But yeah, that's interesting that you knew that. I do get hot quite a bit. So I'm always trying to kind of stay cool and drink cool drinks and stuff, because I don't sweat a ton. Good question. Now back to the Yandere AMAs, which I will finish with. What is the most unhinged, generally most yandere you've read or seen? There was this one that was really fucked up, and it was this woman who, her brother, she was a yandere for, and she like slept with a bunch of her parents' company's executives so that it would like destroy their reputation and then bankrupt them. And the brother was like a neat, so he like was kind of like a loser or whatever. And so she then started to sell her body and take care of him because he couldn't take care of himself. And because he felt so bad, about having his sister to take care of him. He just basically did whatever she wanted, which was to have sex with him and like be her slave. So that's probably one of the most fucked up things that I've read. I think one of the yanderes that's very famous, like, that I'm not going to spoil, but she basically commits close to genocide for her beloved. So that one is pretty significant. Genocide is pretty bad, I would say. So I've never been so down bad that I'd commit genocide. I would say that, but yeah, I think those are two good examples. Is Yuno Gasai the best yandere? If not, why? Yeah, I think so. I said it earlier, but I think she is truly the best. Who would win in a fight, King Kong or Godzilla? I'm not really familiar with either, but Godzilla I think has like that energy beam thing, so I feel like that would probably be helpful in the fight. Yandere robots, yay or nay? Absolutely, 100%. I mean, let's be real. Are we really going to be picky? And like, one of my favorite yanderes is from the game Dramatical Murder, which is the character Clear, who is an android, and in spoiler alert, but in one of the bad endings that you get, he goes like full yandere for the main character and like kidnaps him and like completely immobilizes him. And that shit was just really hot. So 100% yandere robots, especially if it's like AI coded or something. Pizza or burgers? Pizza, for sure. Pizza's like my favorite food ever. Next to like Mexican food and sushi. How do you consistently write peak fiction, and how do you deal with writer's block? I talked a little bit about my process already, but in terms of writer's block, I just, when I'm feeling it, I just force myself to write. Like, even if it feels like shit, like even if it feels bad that I'm writing and the stuff that I'm writing like is just bad or sucks, at least I'm doing it. So I just sort of ignore the fact that whatever I'm writing might not be very good, and I just push through that, and eventually it does get easier. So I think there's a quote by Stephen King, who's one of my favorite authors, and he says, you know, amateurs like wait for inspiration, and professionals, you know, get up and go to work. And so I kind of adopt that mentality of like, you know, I do, you know, like to write when I'm inspired, but when I'm having that writer's block and I know that I want to get through and write something, I'll either just take a break or push through that feeling and just write something that's absolutely dog shit, and hopefully I can edit it and salvage it. Next question is, am I a sadist or masochist? I would say I'm both, but I definitely am more of a masochist and more of a submissive person in my personal life. Which types of girls do you like? Both, you know, sadist, masochist. I obviously like more dominant women, but I appreciate both. I would still consider myself a switch, even though I mostly like more dominant women. I still appreciate submissive women and have a lot of fun with them when I am topping. So yeah. Would Billy really take a yandere murderer? I think I would be pretty patient if I found out that they were a murderer after I dated them for a while. I almost dated a cannibal once, and that was really difficult, but she was a really bad communicator, so it didn't work out. But I almost dated one, so I'm a pretty patient person. But I think if she started off the bat being a murderer, then I would probably not pursue her. But if we were together for like a couple years and she was like, yeah, I actually murdered someone, I'd probably try to work it out, because at that point, like, I'm pretty committed. And I don't know, maybe I'm an idiot, but I feel like maybe I could, you know, prevent her from doing that again by providing a really good support network. So I don't know. I might end up dead because of that, but we'll see. Aside from yandere content, do you have any other hobbies? I do. I really like video games. I like reading. I have pets. I have dogs and cats that I really like to spend time with. I like to listen to music sometimes. I don't go out a lot, but I do sometimes go to concerts or comedy shows. I'm kind of just like game for anything most of the time. I don't really love big crowds. I'm kind of more of a quiet, like, you know, chill person. But I'm always interested in trying new things, and I love cooking, and just I'm kind of, yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of game for everything. Am I okay? Yeah, I'm definitely okay, for sure. No risks or threats currently. Where do I like to eat? That's kind of hard. I mean, I guess I'll just do like chains, since I don't want to like dox myself. I love Taco Bell. Taco Bell is my comfort food. My favorite pizza chain, I would say, is Papa John's. Now I know Papa had a bad history, but the new shit that they have come out with and the recipes and stuff that they've changed is really good. Favorite fast food burger would probably be like, I think McDonald's. There's just something really satisfying. I usually get like a McDouble plain, so that way it's like fresh. It's very good if you haven't tried it. How would you respond if someone on here just got insanely attached to you and was obsessively messaging you, and you had to actually deal with that dynamic? I've thought about this a lot, because I feel like it's bound to happen, especially now that I'm creating audios that are sort of giving like a boyfriend experience. I would probably do my best to talk them down and just let them know that, like, you know, I'm not interested in that, and that I appreciate how passionate and enthusiastic they are about me as a person. But I am a person, and, you know, I'm not this fantasy character. And that, you know, I think that there's plenty of people in their life who would love to spend time with them and give them that attention, and that they might just need to be a little bit more patient until that happens. But, you know, I would just sort of set that boundary and try to be gentle about it, because obviously this person is in pain if they are getting super hyper fixated on someone on the internet who is not interested in them and are still trying to pursue them. That's a person who's struggling and in pain. So I would probably try to like gently ease them into getting some help, or talking to a loved one. And if it got to a point of where my safety was at risk, I would just block them. And I would, you know, before I block them, I would just tell them like, hey, like, I'm just not comfortable. I'm sure you're still a really good person. I think you should still get help, but I'm just not comfortable. And so, you know, this is me setting a very firm boundary. God, this was a lot of questions. If you've made it this far, I'm impressed, because my voice is starting to get tired. Do you think someone can be both a yandere and very submissive? And do you think to some degree the two things cancel each other out? Not at all. I think that being a yandere, like, you can be dominant or submissive. I think that there is an element of violating boundaries, which I guess you could quantify or like label as a dominant behavior. But, you know, I think that with submissive yanderes, it's just more of kind of like a silent manipulation or stuff going on in the background. But I would still consider those people generally submissive, even if there is manipulation. Am I a video game lover? Yes. Do I need any recommendations? No, I don't really have time for any other games. I have too many. The last game I played was Alan Wake 2, and I still haven't finished it, but it's really amazing. And I've been a fan of it since the first game came out, so I really need to finish that. Would you like your yandere to make you burgers or tacos for lunch? I would probably say tacos. I really like tacos, and I'm part Mexican, so I'm really into Mexican food. I would probably like to cook for the yandere though. I really enjoy cooking. How does one acquire a yandere? You don't acquire people. I think that's a thing to be aware of, is that, you know, these are, again, people, and you need to treat them as such. So the idea of acquiring a person, which, you know, I don't know if English is your second language or you just, you know, maybe you didn't mean it this way, but you know, you shouldn't acquire people. You should build relationships with them and have a dynamic and healthy communication. You shouldn't collect them. So why do I have so many memes? I really fucking love reaction memes and reaction videos. So I just have like a giant folder that I just collect all of this shit, and I have like, I think almost 1,000 now. So I'm always just posting random ones to be silly. All right, that's it. That's my AMA. I don't think I'm gonna do another one of these until like, I don't know, let's shoot for like 10,000. So if I get 10,000 followers on my Reddit account, I'll do another one of these. But thank you so much if you made it all the way. Thank you so much if you skipped around. And just thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. And I've said this a few times now, but it really means the world to me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night or afternoon. And don't be a stranger as long as you're an adult and respectful. You can always shoot me a message about a script or a performance, or a question about yanderes. Just be respectful, be kind, speak to others the way you want to be spoken to. Unless you're like crazy horny, then just be chill. But yeah, I'm gonna go not talk for like 5 hours because this I ended up doing the whole thing, so my voice is a bit tired. So anyway, have a good one. I'll hear from you soon. Billy out.